Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something really key for anyone leading a team, especially now with workplaces being so diverse.
Right.
We're talking about how to navigate conflict, maybe performance issues, using language more effectively. We're calling this the generative leader of meanings.
Exactly. Someone who really understands that the words we use shape how we see things, how we act. And that's critical when you have people from different generations, different cultural backgrounds, all working together.
Because those differences can easily lead to, crossed wires or just plain misunderstandings.
Absolutely. Diversity is a huge strength, but it does mean we need to be more conscious about communication. So our mission today is to unpack 3 key phases a leader can use to kind of resolve these issues and boost team performance.
And we're looking at this through the lens of learnable linguistics.
That's right. The basic idea there is that language isn't just for describing reality, it actively helps create it for us. It shapes our thinking.
Okay, sounds fascinating. Let's jump into phase 1, identifying key metaphors and analogies. What does that actually involve for a leader?
So the first thing is really about active listening, but listening for something specific.
Not just listening to respond, but listening for patterns.
Exactly. Listening for the language the team uses naturally. How do they talk about their goals? What words come up when they discuss challenges or even just their day-to-day processes? Because that language reveals what we call learnables. These are like the shared mental models, the cognitive frameworks the team uses to understand things.
Got it. Shared ways of seeing the world.
Precisely. And metaphors and analogies are a huge part of that. They're these deep structure mappings, connecting something familiar to something less familiar. Mental shortcuts, really.
So like if a team member says, we need to tackle this problem head on, that tackle is a metaphor.
Yeah, maybe drawing from sports or physical confrontation. It suggests aggression, directness, or someone might say, this project is a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay, I see. That one suggests endurance, pacing,
Yeah.
maybe less focus on immediate speed.
Right. And each metaphor brings a whole set of assumptions and potential actions with it. Think about the team as family metaphor you sometimes hear.
Oh yeah, that one's common.
It can foster support, loyalty, which is great, but it can also blur professional lines, maybe make conflict more personal, more emotional.
Makes sense. Or the project as a race idea.
That creates urgency, sure, focuses everyone on the finish line. But it might also lead to burnout or maybe cutting corners on quality to get there faster.
Right.
The source material we looked at had a really stark example with the war metaphors used during the pandemic.
I remember that, like fighting the virus.
Exactly. And while maybe well-intentioned, that kind of language could, ramp up anxiety. It might encourage more command and control leadership styles or even subtly shift blame onto those who got sick.
Wow, yeah. Whereas other metaphors, maybe focusing on natural disasters or fires, might have emphasized a different kind of response.
Possibly more focus on community resilience, collective action, necessary social responses rather than fighting an enemy. It really highlights how powerful these background metaphors are.
So phase 1 is about the leader becoming aware of these dominant metaphors, understanding the hidden frameworks.
Yes, because identifying them allows the leader to see the underlying assumptions, the perspectives that are shaping how the team understands the situation, and what actions seem possible or impossible to them. It's like finding the blueprint the team is unconsciously using.
Okay, that's a really clear picture of phase 1. Tuning in, spotting the metaphors. What happens next? What's phase 2?
Phase 2 takes it a level deeper. Now, the leader analyzes how specific linguistic elements, the actual words and grammar being used within those metaphors, or just generally might be causing different team members to focus their attention differently or elaborate on things in contrasting ways.
So moving from the big picture metaphor to the nuts and bolts of the language.
Exactly. Because different types of words do different jobs in directing our focus. Take nouns, for instance. Nouns tend to highlight the properties or the potential uses of things, what linguists call affordances. Think about the word vaccine during the pandemic. The affordances people focused on shifted dramatically over time, didn't they? From prevention to reducing severity and so on.
Right. And how a team talks about, say, a new software tool, the nouns they use would highlight different aspects,
Yeah.
like calling it a barrier versus a bridge.
Precisely. Huge difference in focus. Then you have verbs. Verbs are all about action, process, transformation.
Okay.
Is the team talking about enduring a challenge or overcoming it? Are they implementing a solution or trying out a solution? The verbs signal different levels of commitment, different types of action.
I can see that. And adjectives, they just describe things, right?
They do, but they also select which aspects to focus on, and this is critical in diverse teams. Maybe one cultural group emphasizes efficient solutions while another values harmonious ones. The adjectives they use highlight those priorities.
And that could lead to clashes if those values aren't aligned or understood.
For sure. Adjectives can even create new ways of thinking through sort of paradoxical combinations. The source mentioned things like sweet death or recreational drugs.
Ah, okay. Those pairings force you to hold two potentially conflicting ideas together.
Exactly. They create new learnables, new conceptual spaces, which can be useful, but also a source of misunderstanding if people interpret them differently based on their own backgrounds.
Makes sense. What about the smaller words like adverbs and prepositions?
They're powerful too. Adverbs modify how actions are done quickly, carefully, certainly. An adverb like obviously can imply something is universally agreed upon, even when it isn't, potentially shutting down discussion.
All right.
And prepositions, words like in, on, under, through, are crucial, especially within metaphors. Are we working on a problem or through a problem? Are we under pressure? They structure how we visualize the relationship between elements.
So tiny words, big impact on where we focus our mental energy.
Definitely. And how words combine what's called complementary semantics also shapes meaning. An adjective changes how we understand the noun it modifies. All these choices, rooted in individual experiences and learnables, create different attentional patterns. They can lead to those misunderstandings or biases that stall performance or fuel conflict.
So phase two is really about dissecting the language, becoming almost like a linguistic analyst to see where the different focuses and potential friction points are.
You got it. It's understanding the mechanics of how the language being used might be leading to divergent interpretations and actions within the team.
Okay. We've identified the metaphors in phase one, analyzed the specific language in phase two, now phase three, developing resolutive strategies. It sounds like where the leader takes action.
This is exactly that. It's where the generative leader uses the insights from the first two phases to strategically intervene, to actively shape the linguistic environment of the team.
What does that look like?
It's about broadening perspectives, challenging maybe limiting ways of thinking, and getting everyone more aligned in their understanding and their actions, using language proactively.
Okay, give me some examples. What strategies can a leader use?
Well, a foundational one is simply promoting awareness, helping the team become more conscious of the language they use, the metaphors they rely on.
Like holding up a mirror to their communication.
Sort of, yeah. Encouraging reflection. Did we notice we keep calling this a battle? What effect does that have? Just making the implicit explicit is a powerful first step, especially highlighting how certain language might unintentionally perpetuate biases.
Right, awareness first. Then what?
Then, strategic linguistic interventions. This means the leader consciously chooses their own language to activate more helpful ways of thinking. If the team feels stuck, maybe use more dynamic verbs, emphasizing action, possibility, generation of solutions.
Instead of just describing the problem.
Exactly. Or strategically use nouns and adjectives to highlight specific affordances of a situation or a goal that might be overlooked. Frame a difficult transition as a learning curve. Use adverbs to guide attention. Let's carefully consider this option. Even consciously choosing prepositions within metaphors can make a difference.
So the leader becomes a model of intentional language use.
Precisely. And they need to master that idea of complementary semantics we mentioned, how words work together. Thinking carefully about adjective-noun pairings, for example, to frame things favorably. Is it a necessary budget cut or an opportunity for resource optimization?
Big difference in how that lands.
Huge. Another key strategy is introducing new metaphors or analogies if the current ones are proving unhelpful or divisive. If the race metaphor is burning people out, maybe introduce a journey metaphor that emphasizes collaboration and milestones rather than just speed.
Shifting the whole underlying picture.
Yes. Sometimes this involves creating new learnables, maybe through those linguistic discrepancies or paradoxes we talked about, things like serious fun or organized chaos. These can jolt people out of conventional thinking patterns.
Using language to spark creativity almost.
It can, yeah. Embrace those tensions. And absolutely crucial, especially for the diverse teams we're focusing on, is fostering diverse perspectives and using inclusive language.
Making sure everyone feels heard and valued.
Actively seeking out different viewpoints, challenging language that excludes or marginalizes. This isn't just about being nice, it's essential for robust problem solving and innovation. Diverse inputs lead to better outputs.
Makes perfect sense.
Using narrative, telling stories, is another tool. Stories can help bridge gaps in understanding, make abstract ideas concrete, and connect new situations to things people already know across different backgrounds. And finally, sometimes it's about simplifying. The source calls it linguistic exorcisms, using clear, concise communication to cut through complexity and misunderstanding. Less is often more. It reduces cognitive load, makes information more accessible and memorable for everyone.
So phase 3 is really about the leader becoming an architect of the team's communication environment, intentionally using language to build bridges, broaden thinking, and align action.
That's a great way to put it. The goal is to foster a culture where language is seen as a tool to expand thought, not limit it. An environment that's informed, tolerant, and less biased, setting the stage for innovation and success.
Okay, let's quickly recap this deep dive.
Yeah.
For a leader wanting to guide diverse teams through conflict or performance bumps, becoming a generative leader of meetings, there are 3 phases.
That's right.
Phase 1, identify the key metaphors and analogies the team is using. Really listen for those underlying frameworks.
Get a handle on their shared learnables.
Phase 2, analyze the specific language. Look at the nouns, verbs, adjectives, all the bits and pieces to see how they're directing attention and potentially causing different interpretations.
Understand the mechanics of their meaning making.
And phase 3, develop resolutive strategies. Actively intervene with language. Promote awareness. Choose words strategically. Introduce new metaphors. Foster inclusion. Simplify to reshape the conversation and align the team.
Exactly. Using language not just reactively, but proactively to guide the team towards better outcomes.
It really drives home that conscious language use isn't just a soft skill. It's fundamental to effective leadership, especially today.
Absolutely. It's about expanding cognitive horizons for yourself and your team, unlocking innovation, and steering towards a more desirable future together.
This has been super insightful. So a final thought for you, our listener. Start paying attention to the dominant metaphors and language patterns in your own team or organization. What assumptions might be lurking beneath the surface? What limitations could they be creating? And maybe ask yourself, how could a small shift, a more generative approach to your own language, start to unlock new possibilities?
Great question to ponder.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.